Coming up on News 2, it's been 2 weeks since Senator Alvin Williams and his Chief of Staff Kim Blackett were arraigned at District Court. We'll have an update. Burglars broke into the St. Croix Central High School and stole thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Department officials are asking for your help. Plus, it's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States and the 4th leading cause of death in the U.S. via diabetes. One resident shares his struggles. Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gamansing. Top in this newscast, it's been 2 weeks since Senator Alvin Williams and his Chief of Staff, Kim Blackett, were arraigned at District Court for charges that include bribery, wire fraud, and mail fraud. On Wednesday, more arraignments were in order. Both Gary Sproul and Ace Development, Inc. made court appearances and pled not guilty to their charges. News2's Sen Williams was there and has that story.
2 weeks ago, it was Senator Alvin Williams and his Chief of Staff, Kim Blackett, making the walk into District Court and arraigned for charges that include bribery, mail fraud, and wire fraud. 2 weeks later, more defendants and more arraignments. This time, 64-year-old Gary Sproul, along with Ace Development, Inc., were the ones to face several charges listed in this indictment. Sproul is a legislative staff member for Senator Williams, and Alvin Williams Sr., the father of Senator Williams, was representing Ace Development, Inc. Both defendants were in court on Wednesday after missing last week's scheduled appearances, citing health issues as the reason. During the arraignments, both defendants pled not guilty to their charges. Ace Development, Inc. was the first defendant to be arraigned and pled not guilty to counts 2, 3, and 4 in the indictment. Those charges include federal program bribery, Virgin Islands bribery, and conflict of interest related to bribery. Ace Development, Inc.'s attorney also said on the record that he wanted to clarify that Alvin Williams Sr. has not been personally charged, just the corporation Ace Development, Inc. He also wanted to know why Williams Sr. had been issued a search warrant a couple months ago and asked to submit DNA and fingerprints, even though he was not charged in the indictment. Judge Ruth Miller said that he'd have to bring that up with the government. After Williams Sr., Gary Sproul pled not guilty to all his charges listed in the indictment that include counts 6, 7, and 8. Those charges include conspiracy related to fraudulent claims upon the government, obtaining money by false pretenses, and embezzlement and falsification of a public account. The government informed District Court on Wednesday that they have 18,000 pages and a hard drive of discovery documents all related to the case, and they plan to submit those documents to defense attorneys. For News 2, I'm Allison Bourne-Vanack.
A trial date for both Gary Sproul and Ace Development, Inc. has been set for January 14th. News 2 will keep you updated. During Thanksgiving break, burglars broke into the St. Croix Central High School and stole thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Education Superintendent Gary Malloy says the specialized technical equipment was valued around $300,000 and was taken from the special education and science areas. He said they would have been used to help launch a pilot program this week. Officials say both areas were heavily secured and monitored by surveillance cameras, but the thieves were still able to get in by cutting through the bars on classroom doors and windows. Department officials urge anyone with information to come forward with any information or help to recover the stolen items by calling 778-2211 or Crime Stoppers. The Virgin Islands Next Generation Network Board met Tuesday and approved $2.4 million in contracts as part of the territory's broadband network construction. $1.4 million was awarded to J. Benton Construction to provide and install equipment for each of the 26 fiber access points in the network. Another $577,000 was also granted to install air conditioning at the access points. On St. Croix, 2 contracts were granted for 2 fiber access points at UVI and Roebuck Industrial Park. Rumina Construction was given almost $90,000 to construct a fiber access point near Fort Milner on St. Thomas. The $117 million broadband expansion program is funded by 4 federal grants plus a local match of $32 million. Well, it's now in effect. The road detour Comprinz-Gata is now closed to traffic between Gata and Strand Gata to allow for the installation of a water line, underground utility conduits, and stormwater drainage work. The detour will last through Thursday, December 20th. According to the Department of Public Works, Gata is now a one-way lane going southbound from Comprinsen's-Gata to the waterfront. Strand-Gata between Curacao and Comprinsen's-Gata is now a one-way northbound lane. Island Roads is the contractor of the project. The insurance agent licensing exam is coming up. If you're planning on getting your insurance license, the Division of Banking and Insurance will administer the insurance agent licensing exam on December 4th, that's Tuesday, at its offices located on the 3rd floor of King Street, Christiansted, number 1131. The exam will begin promptly at 10 o'clock a.m. Registration for the exam and payment of the $50 examination fee will be accepted until 3 p.m. on Monday, December 3rd. Now, for additional information, you can contact the Division of Banking and Insurance on St. Croix. That number is 773-6459. Well, as the deadline to arrive at the Fiscal Cliff gets closer, many people are monitoring news outlets carefully to see just what will happen before the end of the year comes. But do you know what the Fiscal Cliff is and just how the territory will be impacted either way? News2's Erica Parsons spoke with 2 local economists to get their take on it.
In a little more than 1 month, members of Congress on both sides of the aisle will have to meet in the middle to avoid the fiscal cliff looming for the start of 2013. That's when the Bush tax cuts expire.
It was actually put into law. There was a time frame that it had to be ending at a certain period of time. It did end during the current administration, and the president worked with Congress to more or less extend that.
The term fiscal cliff was coined by U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Ben Bernanke earlier this year when he testified before Congress about his concerns for the year's end if a fix isn't created when the Bush tax cuts expire. Democrats and Republicans have been arguing about what needs to happen. Just today, though, House Speaker John Boehner said he was hopeful that a budget deal to prevent large tax hikes and spending cuts could be reached.
Speaker Boehner just indicated they'd compromise on that, and several Republicans have broken ranks on that, and they've pretty much agreed. The only taxes that will be allowed to go up will be on people making more than maybe $500,000 a year, and the spending cuts will be delayed. They'll make some cuts in Social Security and Medicare, but they'll be down the road.
What it could mean for the VI?
If the tax cuts do expire, that means automatically, our take-home pay decreases. Our ability to spend our disposable income will be impacted.
Berger says the VI's federal programs could also be affected by the spending cuts.
We're actually looking at that to seeing what the full impact will actually be. And I think the third thing is that we have to look at is that the U.S. economy, if these tax increases are put in place, there's been predictions by economists and also the Congressional Budget Office that the U.S. economy has a possibility of going into recession. And that also will have, not an immediate, but it will have a medium-term and long-term impact on the Virgin Islands economy.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
VI Delegate to Congress Donna Christensen will be holding a press conference tomorrow with local media to discuss the fiscal cliff. Meanwhile, President Obama is meeting with middle-class Americans as he continues his public relations push to end the fiscal cliff deadlock. Republican lawmakers are still talking about compromise, but standing their ground. Danielle Nottingham reports from Capitol Hill.
House GOP leaders huddled again this morning to discuss the impending fiscal cliff. With time running out to prevent year-end tax hikes and spending cuts, Republicans and Democrats are struggling to find common ground.
It's entirely up to the President of the United States. If he wants to protect this country from the dire consequences that everybody agrees to that will happen if we get off this cliff, then it's entirely up to him to make it happen.
President Obama is talking directly to middle-class Americans about ensuring their taxes do not go up on January 1st.
I'm asking Americans all across the country to make your voice heard. Tell members of Congress what a $2,000 tax hike would mean to you.
Lawmakers are holding a flurry of meetings among themselves and with Obama administration staffers, but so far, no new face-to-face meetings are scheduled between congressional leaders and the president. Taxes and entitlement programs are the main sticking points. Republicans say changes to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid should be part of the deal.
We're in this mess because Washington spends too much. The American people know that, and we're not going to get out of it until Democrats get serious about real spending cuts and meaningful entitlement changes.
Some Democrats argue that's not how to steer clear of the fiscal cliff.
We cannot come up with the solution to Medicare in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
The White House is also pushing to keep changes to entitlement programs separate from any deal to avoid the cliff and reduce the deficit. Danielle Nottingham, News 2.
And keeping our eye on the economy, stocks are trying to avoid 3 down days in a row as Wall Street waits for signs of progress on the fiscal cliff. Billionaire Warren Buffett says he's confident that Congress will eventually pass a budget plan, even if it happens early next year. After billions in automatic tax hikes and spending cuts take effect, Buffett says the debate over the fiscal cliff won't affect his investment decisions. This is the New York Stock Exchange with Scotiabank's Stock Market Watch. The Dow, Nasdaq, S&P all up. Dow 106, Nasdaq 23, S&P 10. Coming up on News 2, 7 students are winners of a mental health essay contest launched by the First Lady. Plus, it's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States and the 4th leading cause of death in the U.S. via diabetes. One resident shares his struggles. November is American Diabetes Month, and according to the American Diabetes Association, as many as 1 in 3 American adults will have diabetes by 2050 if nothing is done to stop the disease. News 2's Erica Bivens spent some time with Eduardo Faulkner, better known as Daddy Driver, and brings us his story on living with type 2 diabetes.
It's not a good something that I would like to even give to my enemy.
These days, Eduardo Faulkner, better known by his radio name Daddy Driver, has been using a walker after being diagnosed with diabetes in 2004.
Every day, you have to check your sugar to see what kind of count it is. You got to watch what you're eating. And if you're not aware of the things that you're eating or what causes your sugar to rise more than what it should be, it could cause problems eventually.
Before each meal, Faulkner must check his sugar levels, and he's not alone. According to the CDC, diabetes affects some 26 million Americans, both children and adults, nationwide. Locally, in 2010, Dr. Eugene Toll, an epidemiologist for the Department of Health, estimated that about 15% of Virgin Islanders have diabetes, among the highest rate in the United States.
Father, my brothers, my sister have it, so I would think it's something that goes through the family.
Diabetes is also the 4th leading cause of death in the territory, according to the Department of Health. But even though it's prevalent, Faulkner says there isn't much support out there.
The Virgin Islands is in need, especially St. Thomas, is in need for a clinic to deal just with dialysis, blood pressure, diabetes, and also some with dietitian.
According to a government House release, the Diabetes Education Empowerment Program was established in 2009 by forging a partnership with a Danish company, which pledged $300,000 to the territory over a 3-year span for projects to reduce diabetes. Calls to the Department of Health, specifically the Diabetes Prevention and Control Program, were not returned by News Time. For News 2, I'm Erica Bivens.
Now, News 2 will have more coverage Thursday on Faulkner's experience as a dialysis patient at the Roy Lesher Schneider Hospital, where he says there are major issues that need to be addressed. 7 students are winners of a mental health awareness initiative of First Lady Cecile DeYoung. The essay contest was kicked off during Mental Health Month. High school students throughout the territory were encouraged to answer the question, what does good mental health mean to you? Prizes for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd places were awarded at school ceremonies held last week. In the St. Thomas St. John district, winners include 1st place Sheila Joseph of Charlotte Amalie High School, 2nd place Kenya Dyer of Ivana Udorcan High School, and tied for 3rd place Kelsia Alerfi of Charlotte Amalie High School and Neri Due of Ivana Udorcan High School. St. Croix district winners include 1st place Enrico Farchetti of St. Croix Educational Complex, 2nd place Aaliyah Alec of Good Hope School, and 3rd place Kayla King of the St. Croix Educational Complex. Well, 'tis the season to be jolly, and Christmas events always does that. Here are a few set to get you in that holiday spirit, and Tilly School presents their annual event this Saturday, December 1st from 3 to 8 p.m. in the courtyard. This event will feature a light show and decorated trees up for auction. You can get a picture taken with Santa Claus between 3 to 5 p.m. and enjoy food, games, and music by top-notch band. The CAHS Music Department will hold their concert. They're calling it a joyous Christmas celebration. That's on Sunday, December 2nd, 6 p.m. at the school's auditorium. You can expect the symphonic and concert bands, the Mellahawk Steel Band, and even his own, which is a male a cappella group under the direction of Mr. Michael Lake, who will also perform. UVI's 50th anniversary Christmas concert is set for Saturday, December 8th at the Reichel Center at 8 p.m. You'll hear festive music from the UVI Music Department, and Water Island's annual Christmas Bazaar will take place this Saturday and Sunday at Honeymoon Beach. You can find all the necessary holiday items. That's from noon to 4 p.m. Stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.